Hello again, this is Mr. Easton with Homework Help for section 6.1, which is equivalent fractions. And in this section, students are trying to decide whether two fractions are equivalent, and they're also trying to make equivalent fractions with pictures. And so the first thing I'm going to go over is how to check to see if fractions are equivalent. There are a couple of different ways to do this using math. The first way, which is the way that I would recommend doing because it's going to be the way that's going to help you out the most, is you look at the numerators and decide how you get from the first numerator to the second numerator, either using multiplication or division. So to get from 1 to 5, you do times 5. And now we look at the denominators. And how do you get from 2 to 10? Well, it's also times 5. If they are the same here, times 5 and times 5, that means those fractions are equivalent. If it were something different, if the numbers were different, they would not be equivalent. The other way you can do this is by looking at looking at it as cross multiplication. And what I mean by that is if I were to look from, let me get a different color here. If I were looking, at 1 to 10, and I did 1 times 10, that's 10. If I do 2 times 5, that's also 10. If they both equal the same thing, that means they're both equivalent. So now let's look at the bottom one. We're going to check the first way first, which is how do you get from 3 to 6 using multiplication? That's times 2. Now, if I were to try to go from 4 to 10 using multiplication, I couldn't do that. 4 times 2 does not equal 10. And so since that doesn't work, since you can't go from 4 to 10 using times 2, that means that those are not equal. And again, if you would like to check the cross multiplication way, we can look from 3 to 10. 3 times 10 is 30. And 4 times 6 is not 30, so those again are not equal. So if they are equal, you're going to put an equal sign in between. If they're not equal, you're going to put an equal sign with a slash through it. And that's how that works. So now we're going to look at the classwork. And the first two in our classwork, we had to take that fraction 1/5 and we had to make an equivalent fraction with it. And we could have used the picture and just split it up. And so if we were to draw our line just right across here, we ended up making 2/10, and 2/10 is an equivalent fraction to 1/5, so that's the way you could do it. And then 2/3, you could do this a couple different ways. The easiest way is if you were just to split it right down the middle, as close to the middle as you can, you now have 4/6, which again is an equivalent fraction to 2/3. Now we're looking at 1/6 and 2/12 and deciding whether they're equal or not equal. If I were to get from 1 to 2 using multiplication, it'd be times 2. And if I did 6 times 2, that also equals 12. So since it's times 2 for the numerators and denominators, those are equal fractions, equivalent. Number 4, we got 2/5 and 6/10. To get from 2 to 6, you have to do times 3. But to get from 5 to 10, you have to do times 2. So 2 times 3 and 5 times 2, those are not equal. We've got 4/12 and 1/3. This is a good one because you have to use division. 4 divided by 4 gets 1. 12 divided by 4 gets you 3, so those are going to be equal. And then you can do the same thing on the bottom 3. I'm going to use the cross multiplying rule to check. So if I do 5 times 4, I get 20. 8 times 2 is only 16, so those are not equal. 7, we've got 5/6 and 10/12. 6 times 10 is 60. 5 times 12 is also 60, so those are equal. And the last one, 2 times 5 is 10. 1 times 10 is 10, so those are equal. Check. And that is homework help for section 6.1. Good luck, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.